Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be writing a sample CELPIP Task 1 email task together. I'll be walking you through every single step. Stay with me. So, the question reads, you were on a train traveling between cities. During your trip, you lost a valuable item. Write an email to the railway company in about 150 to 200 words, and your email should do the following things. So, as with most CELPIP questions, we have three bullets or three aims that we should achieve. In this particular case, the three aims are: 1, describe the item you lost; 2, explain where and when you last saw it; and 3, say what you expect the railway company to do. Okay, now the good news is that you can follow a generic outline that you can use for pretty much all CELPIP questions. Let's take a look at the outline together first. Well, you begin with what's called a salutation, and that's just your way of saying hello. So the famous "Dear Mr. X, dear Ms. Y," that's what comes at the very beginning. Then you follow this up with what's called an opening paragraph. And your opening paragraph is going to be that one sentence that serves as a subject line and tells your readers what they can expect to read or what this email is going to be generally about. Following that, we have what is probably the longest paragraph, which is called the background paragraph. After that, you have two function paragraphs, function 1 and function 2, where you will fulfill bullets 2 and 3. And then you have the closing paragraph, the leave taking, and you will sign your name at the end. Now I'm going to explain all of these to you as I provide a sample response. But before you get into writing, it's always very important that you know what you're going to say. Specifically, you need to brainstorm ideas for your three bullets. For example, if there's an item that you've lost, you need to know what that item is, and you need to know how you're going to be describing it. So what features are you going to include? In this particular case, I'm going to brainstorm ideas, and I'm going to say that I lost, let's say, a backpack. So I know going into the writing process what that particular item, which I've lost supposedly, is. So allow me to write down my ideas here. So we have brainstorming, and so it's a backpack, and I can say it's a black backpack, and it's a medium sized backpack. I can also say that it has a tag, right? So includes a tag with my name and number. Okay, so these are the things that I need to include when I'm describing the backpack. Okay, then the second bullet is explain when and where you last saw it. So let's say it was next to me. So I'll just say next to me on a vacant seat on my last station. So on the station where I got off the train. And finally, say what you expect them to do. Well, let's say they can inform you or inform me if it's found. And also we can say, give me an address so I can pick it up, right? So there, you do need to figure this out before you start writing. Otherwise, you'll find yourself in this situation where you're thinking about what to say and you're trying to come up with a grammatically correct way of expressing it with all the right words and structures. Okay, now that you've got all that figured out, the ideas, let's try to put everything into the right format. So let's begin with the salutation. Who are we writing to? Well, we're writing to the railway company, according to the question. Now, do I know who this person is? Not really. So a safe bet is to start with something like Dear Sir or Madam. So I'm going to go ahead and use Dear Sir or Madam. And don't forget the comma after the salutation. So it's always Dear Sir or Madam, or to whom it may concern, followed by a comma. Okay, now I'm going to write the opening paragraph. Now, once again, what is the opening paragraph? The opening paragraph is a short one-sentence paragraph that reveals the aim or the main purpose of the letter. Why am I writing this letter? What is the main purpose? In this case, I'm going to go ahead and say something like, I'm writing in connection with an item that I lost during a recent trip. There, that's it. Now, notice that I'm not going into details. I'm not mentioning that I lost my backpack, nor am I saying something too vague in general, like I'm writing about a lost item. That's a little bit too broad and a little too vague. So you have to find the right spot in the middle. Don't get into too many details. At the same time, don't say something that's too broad and something that really doesn't help. Another mistake that I often see is that students reveal too much and they end up repeating themselves in a later paragraph. So whatever you say in your opening, you don't want to repeat it later in another paragraph. Okay, so we got the opening down. Let's move on to the background paragraph. Now, what do we need to include in a good background paragraph? Well, there are three elements. The first one is you go ahead and introduce yourself. Now, do you always need to introduce yourself? Not really. It depends on the topic. Does the recipient know who you are? If they know who you are, then there's no need to go ahead and introduce yourself. But if they don't know who you are, as in this case, it's always a good idea to begin the background paragraph with a brief self-introduction. What comes after that? Well, after you've introduced yourself, you need to provide some context. So I'm going to say add context. And what does that mean? It means you have to provide some background information. And where does this background information come from? Well, it actually comes from the question. If you look at the first part of the question, this part on the left, you're always given a scenario. In this case, it says you were on a train traveling between cities. During your trip, you lost a valuable item. I know it's not much, but you need to repeat that. And ideally, you should add a little bit of context to it. So that is what we call providing context. Because if you jump into the functions, sometimes the reader, who has not read the question, by the way, will not have a sound understanding of why you are making this particular request or why you are requesting this particular piece of information. So always provide the necessary context. Okay, what comes after the context? Well, you introduce yourself, you provide the context, and then you fulfill bullet number 1. In this case, bullet number 1 is describe the item you lost. So I'm going to explain what I lost and what it looks like in the background paragraph. Okay, let's see if we can write a nice background paragraph here. So I'm going to start by introducing myself. I'm going to say, my name is John Doe, and I was a passenger on board the train from Georgetown to, let's say, Yorkville. I just made 2 names up. You can do the same. Okay, so now I've introduced myself. They know who I am, and they know it's not just my name that matters. It's also in what capacity am I writing? Am I a passenger? Am I you see? So you also need to introduce yourself in terms of how it pertains to this particular scenario. Okay, Then I'm going to provide some context. Now, I've already provided some context because I said that I was on the train, right? But then I also need to say that I lost a valuable item. So I'm going to go ahead and add something like this. Unfortunately, upon leaving the train, I noticed that I had left a valuable item. Well, you could say left, or you could say I had misplaced, right? A valuable item on or in the wagon, right? In the wagon or on the train. You could go with something like that. Okay, now bullet 1. Describe the item you lost. Okay, now it's always a good idea to provide what is called a nice topic sentence before you attempt to address bullet 1. And this isn't only just for bullet 1. You should do it pretty much for any bullet that you're trying to achieve. And what is this topic sentence? It's a sentence that signals you are going to signals the fact that you're going to answer bullet number 1 in this case. So how can we do that? Instead of jumping into it and say, I lost my backpack, you could say something like this. I would like to, so allow me to add this in the paragraph. Now, in most cases, the bullet appears, the topic sentence appears at the very beginning of the paragraph. But in this particular case, because the background includes more than just the bullet, in this case, we're going to have the topic sentence in the middle. So I would like to describe, or instead of I would like, I could even go ahead and say, allow me to describe the item and its specifications. All right? So you want to be a little bit more specific. You don't just want to say what it is you lost. So I mistakenly left well, remember, we brainstorm ideas. It's not just the backpack. We want to mention that it's a black medium-sized backpack, right? So I mistakenly left my black medium-sized backpack, right? Which includes a name tag with my number and address on it. There. So, and you don't have to say left my backpack because we've already mentioned that. We've established that. So you could say something like, I lost my backpack, my black medium-sized backpack, which includes a name tag with my name and with my number and address on it. Okay, I'm happy with my background. Now, I'm going to move on to function paragraph number 1, and that's where I'm going to fulfill bullet number 2. And bullet number 2 is explain where and when you last saw it. So let's begin with another topic sentence. So you could say something like this. You could say, I last saw my backpack, right? Now, on the seat next to me, right? Now, in wagon number 5, okay? Or maybe you could even mention the seat. That's even better, right? So next to me, on seat number 54A. Just came up with a random number there. And I have to get into a little bit more detail. So where was it? I can say it was on this, I'd left it on the seat right next to me, right? So I had left it on an empty seat, and or we could say on an empty seat next to the window. Okay. Now, don't be too picky as you're writing. we always have a chance to come back and review and maybe add something or polish the language. So for now, it's all about execution. It's all about getting the ideas down on the file and then later coming back to see how you could improve it. Okay, function number 2 is where I'm going to introduce bullet number 3. And bullet number 3 is basically say what you expect them to do. Okay, so I've already figured it out. I said I want them to inform me if it's found and to give me an address so I can pick it up. Okay, let's begin function number 2 with another topic sentence. So we could say something like this. In the event you find, or we could say in the event my backpack is found, please inform me so that I can pick it up immediately, right? So you also want them to give you an address. So please inform me and provide me with an address so that I can pick it up immediately. Okay? Or we could say, please let me know and provide me with an address so I can pick it up immediately. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Now, as you can see, I'm not really going into too many details. As long as I have the function down with all the details that's requested of me in the question, I should be fine. And I don't need to worry about, adding too much. All right. Now, what's left is the closing paragraph. Now, what is the closing paragraph? It's a short one-sentence paragraph that comes at the end and marks the end of the letter. So it's my way of saying, hey, this is the end of my letter. I don't have much else to say. All right. So what could I say? In this particular case, I could say something like, thanks in advance, or thank you in advance for your kind cooperation. So there we go. Then we have the leave taking, which is going to be that one sentence where we say goodbye and we sign off after that. In this case, it's a semi-formal letter. So I'm going to go with regards and I'm going to sign my name there at the end. Okay, so I got all the ideas down. I can get rid of the brainstorming. And now what I can do is I can start reading it just to see if everything matches what is requested of me in the question. So let's read it together, guys. Dear Sir or Madam, I'm writing in connection with an item that I lost during a recent trip. My name is John Doe, and I was a passenger on board the train from Georgetown to Yorkville. Unfortunately, upon leaving the train, I noticed that I had misplaced a valuable item in the wagon. So I could say a valuable item of mine, right? And in one of the wagons. See? So it's not like when you're done and you're done. You can always come back and you can add things, improve things. And so don't worry too much about the language features and your use of vocabulary, collocations as you're writing. Your first draft should be aimed at getting the ideas and making sure that you're addressing the question in an appropriate way. Okay, allow me to describe the item and its specifications. I lost my black medium-sized backpack. Okay, now I don't want to repeat I lost again. So I can just go ahead and say it was a black medium-sized backpack which includes a name tag with my name, with my number and address on it. I'm happy with this. Okay. Bullet number 2 was explain when and where you last saw it. So in response, I've written, I last saw my backpack on the seat next to me on seat number 54A. You know what? Instead of saying seat number 54A, we can say on wagon 54A. Okay, let's say I don't remember the exact seat number. So I'm afraid I do not recall my exact seat number. Okay, good. And I had left it on an empty seat next to the window. Or you could repeat what's in the question. So you could say, I remember placing it, right? So instead of that, you could say, I remember placing it on an empty seat next to the window. Great. Now, bullet number 3, say what you expect them to do. So in this particular case, I've written, in the event my backpack is found, please let me know and provide me with an address so that I can pick it up immediately. All right, and then thank you in advance for your kind cooperation. Regards, John Doe. So there you go, guys. And if we do a quick word count, the word count stands at 154, which is very close to the minimum. I recommend that you write a little bit more on the day of the test. So anything between 150 to 200, do not exceed 200 words, as that would be a very lengthy response. So make sure that your response falls within the limit. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. We have plenty more videos like this available on our channel, which can be accessed by members of the channel. And by watching videos like this and comparing your own performance against this style and outline that I'm providing you, you can guarantee yourself a higher score on the test. Every sample that I provide also includes lots of language structures, vocabulary, grammatical and collocation forms that can be very useful and can be reused in similar questions that appear on the test. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this one, and see you in the next video.